Imagine you're soaring 35,000 feet above the ground, sipping your coffee, confident in the knowledge that aviation is the safest mode of transport. Now imagine that within seconds, the plane starts shaking violently, systems fail, and panic sets in. This is not fiction. This has been the reality for multiple flights over the past few months. What's going on? Is modern aviation facing an unprecedented crisis, or are these tragedies merely a grim coincidence? Stay with us as we dissect the chilling pattern of aviation disasters that have rocked the world and what they reveal about the hidden risks lurking in the skies. A nightmare unfolds. The Azerbaijan Airlines catastrophe, December 25, 2024. Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 was en route to Grozny, Russia when disaster struck. Amid worsening weather conditions, pilots struggled with navigation after experiencing GPS jamming and spoofing, electronic warfare tactics, often used in conflict zones. On their third attempt to land, a deafening explosion tore through the aircraft. Investigators suspect missile fragments struck the rear fuselage, disabling all three hydraulic systems and locking the plane's control surfaces. With no conventional controls, the pilots relied solely on differential thrust to steer the crippled aircraft towards an emergency landing in Aktau, Kazakhstan. Their valiant efforts almost succeeded, but the plane fell short, crashing just 5 kilometers from the runway, killing 38 of the 67 people on board. This tragedy raises unsettling questions. Should commercial airlines be flying in or near war zones? Are governments doing enough to regulate flight paths over conflict areas? And most importantly, how can pilots be better trained to handle these life or death scenarios? The Halifax horror, a hidden hazard. Just 3 days later, disaster nearly struck again. Air Canada Flight 2259, a de Havilland Dash 8, touched down in Halifax, Canada, only for its left landing gear to collapse on impact. Fire erupted as the aircraft skidded across the runway, metal grinding against concrete, sending sparks into the night sky. Fortunately, all passengers evacuated safely. Cause? A blown tire unnoticed at departure. This seemingly minor oversight highlights a growing concern. Are routine maintenance checks being rushed? Are airlines under pressure to prioritize tight schedules over thorough inspections? A fiery end in South Korea, Juu Air Flight 2216. The next catastrophe was even deadlier. On December 29, Juu Air Flight 2216, a Boeing 737, attempted to land at Muin Airport without deploying its landing gear. The aircraft slammed into the runway at high speed before careening into a concrete barrier. Flames engulfed the fuselage, leaving only 2 survivors out of 181 passengers and crew. This crash has ignited scrutiny over pilot training and airline safety procedures. Was this a case of human error, mechanical failure, or something far more concerning, a systemic decline in aviation standards? Exploding lithium batteries, a deadly threat at 30,000 feet. January 28, 2025. Airbusan Flight 391 was preparing for departure when a thin veil of smoke began seeping from the overhead bins. Minutes later, fire erupted. The emergency slides deployed just in time, saving all on board. But the aircraft was not so lucky. Firefighters battled the flames for over an hour, but by then, the plane was beyond repair. Investigators quickly identified the likely culprit: lithium-ion batteries stored in a passenger's carry-on luggage. This incident reignited a long-standing debate. Should these batteries be banned from commercial flights altogether? Airlines have warned about their risks, yet passengers continue to ignore regulations, bringing potentially lethal hazards on board. America's worst aviation disaster in a decade, then came the deadliest accident yet. On January 29, a PSA Airlines CRJ 700, operating American Airlines Flight 5342, collided midair with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac River. The crash killed all 64 people on board. An air traffic control miscalculation caused the near-zero visibility approach to go horribly wrong. The CRJ pilots, originally cleared for a standard approach to runway 01, were abruptly instructed to switch to runway 33 at the last moment. Meanwhile, the helicopter, flying lower than it should have, intersected their flight path. With communication systems operating on different frequencies, the warning never reached the pilots in time. This catastrophe exposes glaring issues. Are air traffic controllers overburdened? Are near misses more common than we realize? Are civilian and military aircraft being properly coordinated in shared airspace? The MedEvac tragedy, a mission that ended in flames just 48 hours later, another aviation disaster made headlines. A MedEvac Learjet 55, carrying a pediatric patient, a doctor, and a paramedic, plunged into the ground moments after takeoff from Philadelphia International Airport. Eyewitnesses reported the aircraft climbing steeply before suddenly nosediving at 11,000 feet per minute, an uncontrollable fall that ended in a fiery explosion upon impact. Investigators suspect a catastrophic mechanical failure, possibly involving the autopilot system or control surfaces. This tragedy raises urgent concerns about private medical aircraft oversight. Are they subject to the same rigorous safety inspections as commercial flights? The bigger picture, is aviation facing a systemic crisis? With 6 major disasters in just over a month, a sobering reality emerges: aviation safety is facing unprecedented challenges. Experts warn of multiple factors converging into a perfect storm. Aging aircraft. Some airlines operate decades-old planes, increasing the risk of mechanical failures. Overburdened air traffic control, staffing shortages, and outdated infrastructure are leading to more errors. Declining maintenance standards. Airlines under financial strain may be cutting corners on critical inspections. Geopolitical instability. Flying over war zones is riskier than ever. International regulations remain weak. Aviation authorities must act now. Stricter regulations, improved pilot training, and better maintenance protocols are not just recommendations, they are necessities. If lessons are not learned from these tragedies, the next disaster may be just around the corner. What do you think? Are we facing a full-blown aviation safety crisis? Or is this just an unfortunate cluster of tragedies? Share your thoughts in the comments. And as always, stay safe and keep flying.